Hey there and welcome. My name's Ryan and this is Developer's Garage. Whew, we've already had a doozy of a morning, between meetings and getting things ready at work and then also getting things ready for the stream. Just when I thought I had things ready, everything was up, it was running, so I thought. Um, Something happened. I tried to spin up some of my Docker containers and all of a sudden, nothing. Docker's not there. I tried looking for it in Windows. It wasn't there again. I, I don't know what happened to it. Crazy. And so I tried installing, and this was about 5 minutes before I was expected to start my stream at noon, 10, 1, depending on where you're at. And man, it took me another 20 to 30 minutes just to figure out, oh yeah, by the way, my machine crashed a couple of days ago. And when it did that, something just didn't start up right. And Docker wanted to do some updates and it couldn't update, and it was stuck in some kind of weird loop. Anyways, after a full shutdown, restart, and reinstalling Docker and all that other kind of stuff, 30 minutes later, here we are. So, where are we at? So, rules of the stream. So, hey, this is a safe place. This is where everybody can come express their ideas, their opinions, without being bullies or putting down other people's ideas, thoughts, or just the things that they like to use, the tools they like to use. We're very open here. This is a very open stream. We're going to try different things as we go through. So hopefully we'll try some of these tools and everybody can get kind of a feel, kind of what other people go through. Today we're continuing on our open source streaming tools updates for Mr. C# Fritz, Mr. Jeff Fritz. He has this great stream kit. Let's go ahead and switch over to our code. Let's see. Is that what I want to do? Yep. Hey, there it is. All right. So let's come out here. Let's go to GitHub. Did I spell that right? No, I didn't. Man, I'm having trouble typing this morning. GitHub.com. I will get this typing thing down one of these decades. Let's see, not Xamarin. We're going to do Devs Garage. So if you want to help out, you want to join us, you want to contribute to it, Devs Garage, github.com/Devs Garage is our repo, or this is where we store all our repos for this stream. We're looking at the Fritz StreamTools. We forked that from Mr. C# Fritz's. We are updating what's called the rundown component. So what does that mean? So do I have it running? I do have it running. All right, let's take a look at it. We'll show you what we're doing. So I'm actually using the rundown component right over there. It's our agenda, you see. Right now, it's very static text. For the past, I think, 3 streams now, we've actually been updating it to make it, while it's running, be able to dynamically update the title, the items, the text, anything, add new items, remove items, all that kind of stuff live. Without having to, right now, I have to shut down the Docker container, edit the file, rebuild everything, and then bring it back up. It's kind of a hassle, especially if you're trying to get things going, especially on a stream where you don't want to spend 30 minutes waiting to get things running. So, as you can see, last week, 2 weeks ago, we did the add insert items. Last week we did the add delete items. Oh, so normally we do this stream on Wednesdays around noon. I try to be on time at noon because work is now taking a little bit of my time after these streams. So I try to keep things around an hour and a half. I'd like to say an hour, but most likely it's an hour and a half to 2 hours. Today I got to cut it off about at least 1:30. Let me check. Maybe I can go a little bit longer because I think, I don't know what time my next meeting is. 2:30. So I got a meeting at 2:30 where I'm actually speaking, so I actually have some presentation. So I got to be done by 2 p.m. Central Time. So, where were we at? What were we doing? What was he talking about? Oh, yes. So today's Friday. And like I said, normally we do this on Wednesdays. But in our household, we've kind of gone through a little bit of this flu thing. If you've been lucky enough not to go through it, congratulations. Stay safe, stay healthy for the rest of this flu season. But I've had both my kids come down with it this week, and it was just too much to try and fit a stream in there. But I want to keep to my goal of 1 stream a week for 52 weeks. And so here we are. We are back on Friday. And so we're a couple days late, but we're still doing it this week. Hopefully I can maybe do this a few more times a week, assuming everybody's healthy and everything. I don't want to hang my wife out to dry. She's been very supportive as I've been doing this, taking over my lunch times and stuff where I'd normally go out and run errands for us. So she's been very supportive, and I've been doing this during my lunch hours, prepping during my lunch hours and stuff. So thank you, honey, if you do watch these, which she probably doesn't. I married a non-techie wife, which I love her. She completes me. She balances me out. I have a lot of tech. If we were both techies, there's no telling what our house would be filled with. Maybe a little bit of excitement. But it's nice having someone who doesn't have the same interests as you, someone that balances you out, keeps your feet down to reality. We'd probably be pretty broke if we were both tech nuts with all the stuff we'd have. But she keeps me balanced on my things. I keep her balanced on other things. And so we complete each other. We complement each other is the best way to say it. So thank you, honey. All right. So here we are. GitHub.com, Dev's Garage, Fritz StreamTools. So what are we doing? What does that thing look like over there? So it's simple. It's just an ASP.NET Core website using Razor Pages. So if I go to localhost, there it is. So that's the rundown. We'll go look at it. So here we go. We've got the rundown title. We've got everything. It's interesting that it's actually offset over there. I didn't think it was. Got our items here, and then we also have an admin component to it. So let's look at localhost. And we're going to go to the admin site. It's real simple. And like I said, these are actually running, typically we'll run in a Docker container. Right now I have them running through IIS Express simply because I don't want to have to take my container down, rebuild it every time I make an update. So let's just spread these out here. So we'll put the admin on one side, and we'll put the styling's bothering me. That's one of the things we're going to do today. As you can see, fix styling. That's one of our goals. But we're also going to do something with the APIs because we had to add some things. Some things just didn't make sense to put it where they were. So we got it running. So as we can see here, while it's live, it's running. It's going to update. Update. Now I can hit the edit button here. This is some of the things we worked on. I can change the title. I can say agenda. As you can see, it's updating as we type. It's about a 5-second delay. This is on every 5 seconds. It goes and checks for updates. I can change the title. Item 1. Live. And one of the things we didn't want to do, these are disabled on purpose. By default? Yeah. I didn't want I wanted to separate the lines between actually performing the admin function of checking items off and performing the admin function of removing items, adding items, and changing the items text. I wanted those to be kind of separate. That way you couldn't get in this weird mode where you'd uncheck something, didn't mean to, all kinds of things, because everything's done as we do it. I don't like save buttons. That's a personal preference of mine. Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. And it's just not something I want to do. I want to deal with. So we added we added the ability to remove an item. So I can go ahead and remove this one, just delete it, deletes it from here. And there you see it's gone over there. Next thing I can do, I can add a new item. There's that new item again. Just added a new item. You see it's updating. Again, it's a 5-second delay. So there we go. Those are the things. That's where we're at today. So you can see we got refactored the API a little bit, maybe make some services. Right now I believe it's running in a repo. So let's go take a look. But before we do that, I want to say one thing here. Whoa, green screen, what happened here? All right, hang on one second. That's a little better. Maybe I need to make it. I still got to work on my lighting. So as you saw up there in the corner, you saw my green screen start to get a little fuzzy as I switched to more of a dark screen instead of a light one. So right now, the things that are lighting my face and everything is the monitors. I have about 3 of them here, and they do, when I work with some bright screens, they light up my face really well. Problem is, when I start working with darker screens, I like to work in the dark mode. Things don't work so well. Things start getting a little darker back here, and my chroma key filter I have set up just starts to can't determine the green anymore. So I actually put a white notepad window over on one of my screens here that you all can't see, and it actually helps light up my face. Now eventually I'm going to get a nice little one of those little face lights that you set over here to shine a little bit of light up here, so I don't have to worry about that anymore. We build it as we go. So one of the other things, so a few weeks ago, start over one more time. So I follow Mr. C# Fritz, Jeff Fritz. I watch his Twitch stream. He's been a great advocate for developer streaming. He's been a great open source advocate and supporting everyone and helping everybody learn. And one of the things that he's been recognized for is he's actually now made Twitch partner, which if you're watching this on Twitch, that's a kind of a big deal. He's got thousands of followers. I'm not really, maybe a couple thousand he's up to now, maybe more. Anyway, he's also been recognized by other companies that support streaming as well, such as Elgato. Elgato Gaming is what their Twitter handle is, I believe. And one of the things they did was they gave him a couple of their Stream Decks. So now you may be asking, what is a Stream Deck? I've gone over it before, but we're going to go over it again real quick. Just Google Stream Deck here. So it's an awesome little device here. Let's go to Elgato's page. So it's a nice little device that allows you to automate some of your things you do on your stream, such as switching scenes, where I don't have to go over to my program and click a button to change scenes as we go from me in full screen, and with my code screen up, or my main display with me down here in the corner. Just a flick of a button here, and I can switch between those. The other thing it lets me do is I actually have a macro system, a multi-action button built in here. What it does, it actually changes my Twitter handle, sends out a tweet, says, hey, I'm going live. It actually starts the Twitch streaming process. And what else? It starts recording it. So I record it locally, and that way I can upload it to YouTube later. So awesome little device, has so many possibilities you could do with it. They even open source their SDK for this device, so now that developers can go in, basically interact with the device now, write new macros, new programs that can be run by the Stream Deck, but also can update the little interface on it as well. So your little button, you can change the text on it and everything based on what happens with the program or from any other device. And Jeff has been working on an open source Stream Deck SDK for .NET. Maybe it's a .NET Stream Deck SDK. Anyways, it's an open source project. If you go out to his GitHub repo, you can see what they've been working on here lately. And he's doing a phenomenal, speaking is hard today. A phenomenal job on this toolkit. Let's see, live stream Stream Deck toolkit. And basically it's got all the different ways that you can get this up and running. They even built a template for Visual Studio. So now you can just do .NET New, and you can use your plugins template. You can create your own plugin pretty quickly. And hopefully here, as soon as we get some of our other stuff done, that's what we're going to go to next. We're going to start creating a plugin. So how do we get on here? Let's get back around to it. On his stream a few weeks ago, Elgato gave him 3 Stream Decks to give away. That's what we were talking about. And somehow I don't win things. And it's crazy, but Developers Garage came up on his stream and we won one of these Stream Decks. So let's see, get it up. Oh, let's see, can you see it? Do I need to go to full screen? Let's look at this. Scenes, full screen. Woo! Big Stream Deck here. Anyways, back to it. So we won one. I just got it in this week, just in time for my Wednesday stream, had I actually streamed on Wednesday. But I can now easily do my sounds. Oh no, my sounds aren't working. Wow, oh wow, I'm gonna have to figure that out. Something happened to my sounds and it doesn't like them.
Just do
There
it!
we go. There we go. Ah, I copied a folder in my setup trying to make things a little easier and have my sounds in multiple places.
No!
Yeah, I must have messed something up. So I'll go fix that later though. We won't do that on stream. All right. Let's get back to it. So we want to fix some of the styling out that we've got going on here. Make sure everything looks good. All right. So styling, back to it. So when we were looking at it, I just didn't like this. I don't like how it's all butted up against here. And it doesn't look very good to me when we're in edit mode. So we're going to fix this. We want to make this agenda a little nicer because this is something hopefully we may have running when you're streaming, running off to the side, that you can actually change this. Like I can go update my agenda over there when we mark an item off. I can update it and where did it go? It's around here somewhere. Find my mouse. Switching between multi-monitors and everything. I can just easily update and turn it back on. So we want to make this look a little bit nicer. It looked nicer before. And so what we want to do is we want to just maybe add a little bit of styling to it. Was that the first thing on that list? No, refactor the APIs. That's what we're doing right now. We're going to refactor the APIs. That's why I have the agenda there. It keeps me on track. Because otherwise I would just bounce around like a bouncy ball in a rubber room. All right. So here we've got our StreamTools project. This is ASP.NET Core 2.1. Not updated to 2.2 yet. We'll do that later. We want to get this up, get it running, get it put in, submitted, a PR submitted, and then we can go fix some of these things. So we talked about we want to look at let's look at the controllers. So our rundown controller. So we now have 2 controllers here. This one here is the rundown controller, which is one I believe we added, which is what we use to actually update the title, fix the title and everything. The other controller that was originally here was called the rundown item controller, and that was focused more on the items. So we had that ability to go and update these different things. The other thing that we have is we have the repository. So the repository is where all this stuff lives. Let's go find our rundown repository. And I think this size looks good. So we added for our rundown repository, we have a new title. We have added a new method called getTitle and updateTitle to go and update those. We also had over here, we had add, update, delete items. And that's what we use those as well as we go through and add, update, and delete the items. And that way our repository maintains everything. The idea is later down the road, we can come and we can back this with a data provider. Have it stored either maybe in a Redis cache somewhere or out on a document DB, NoSQL database, or even a SQL database. Whatever you want, whatever you need. But right now, everything's stored locally here. As you can see, all our predefined items here. Yay. But everything runs and everything hits this repository. So I just didn't feel right when I was starting to look at all this. And I think I want to put a service in the middle here that maybe both these controllers can consume and use. And this service will then hit the repository, kind of separate things. I don't have a lot of logic in here. But the repository, adding these items to the repository just didn't feel right either. So we want to look at basically the repository pattern. It's kind of what we're using, which it made sense. It worked. It worked. But now we made it work. We're going to make it right, and then we'll make it fast. So repository pattern, C#. And there are a lot of different things, some great videos out here on the repository pattern. Microsoft here even has a little bit when they talk about the persistence layer in their infrastructure. A couple of things on how to implement the repository pattern. There's someone that I really like to listen to and follow on this. And let's see if he's got anything out there. Steve Smith also goes by R. Dallas. He has a lot of great tips, a lot of great explanation and instruction posts out there on patterns and practices. And so this is someone who I will usually go to. I will look for his stuff just so I can make sure whenever I'm building things out and starting to, as my application gets bigger, I make sure I implement the right patterns. And that's what you want to do. Not every pattern will fit every scenario, but there are a lot of patterns out there that can be used to decouple your code from your visual layer, from your database layer, all the way down, and make it easy to swap components in and out. And that's ultimately what we want to do. We want to be able to quickly and easily change things without fear of breaking things down the line. Unit testing plays a big part in that, and that's something we're going to look at doing as well. And so he's got, that's GitHub. That's not what we're looking for. He does a lot with his clean architecture. But anyways, I'm going to put a service layer in between. You can go out there and take a look, read all about the repository pattern, find some great videos out there on it. But what we're going to do is we're going to basically put a service in here. I'm going to put a service in between this. So we have some services down here already. They have GitHub server, Mixer service, Twitch service. And what these are doing, they're actually going out to other services out there. We're going to create a service called the rundown service. That's going to be how we go get all the information we need for the rundown. And it will use the repository. We'll inject the repository into it, and which will still return our data. And we may actually have multiple repositories now. So let's go add a new class. We're going to call it the rundown service.cs. Oh, I love how they put that there now, public. Oh. For the longest time, you create a new class and it just comes in as class, not public. Why? I don't know. Bothered me like to all nothing. All right. Let's checking some things out, make sure the stream is going. Stream's working well. All right, so the first thing we want to do, there we go. Oh, I don't like that it did not indent. That's something that's just, it's kind of weird that I run into, is like the pretty print, the formatting doesn't come in all that well. So all right, we want to take in, I think, let's look at see what our repository implements. Does it implement something? No, it does not. So that's what we want to do. We want to go ahead and actually, I think it's actually just injected as a rundown repository. Let's take a look at our controller, see what our controller looks like. Yep, it just comes in as a rundown repository. So this is set up in our .NET Core application on startup. Oh, they've extracted this out to configure service. So if we go to definition here, inside this class, it's another way to basically try and keep your startup clean, because if you add all this in there, it gets kind of big, kind of hard to read. So we start separating things out. The beauty part of .NET Core is it is very extensible, very easy to create extensions off of things to separate your code out into logical units without, instead of the old way of doing it, everything in a large block and having basically comments in between everything to tell you what they are. So there's our rundown repository right there. So our service just needs to get a rundown. Wow, Ryan, come on. All right, and we're going to just call it repository. Need a place to store it. Private. And you're going to see this is something else I like to do. It's my personal preference. Again, if you're working within a project, within a team, come to consensus on how you guys like to name things. My apologies, how your team likes to name things. Want to make sure we're being inclusive here and using generic pronouns. In the Midwest, at least in Oklahoma where I'm at, we use the term guys to mean both male, female, everybody. But I understand that in other areas that's not how it is. So want to make sure we support everyone. So whatever your team chooses to use, just use their style. You can talk with them and find out if there's a particular reason why they chose that style, or if it was just a consensus that came. They might be open to changing. But so this is what I like to do. I do have things named the same. You'll see people put underscores. Not me. It's easy for me. Oh man, I don't like that. I don't know why it's trying to format everything in a line. Am I missing something? No. Okay, well. Let's go ahead. Keep trucking along here. So let's go to our first controller. Let's go to our rundown controller. What is it doing? So our rundown controller, basically it gets the title. The get. So we have the title for the URL, and that just returns get title. And you have update title. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to now change this. Why is it doing this? Why is it doing this? So if you didn't notice, trying to figure out what I'm looking at and why I'm trying to figure this part out. So I've got a public property here of my repository. Now, why would that be? Why am I exposing that publicly? I'm not sure. My guess, I don't know. The only thing I can think of would be for unit testing is why that would be there. But let me look at something real quick. Let's look at the view that we display. Pages, here we go. Our rundown page. Yeah, look at that. There we go. So Fritz StreamTools pages rundown model. In the model, we have the repository, and we get the title. So let's come back here. Let me look at the code behind here. Nope, that's what they're doing there. So I don't know, I'm not sure why that's a public in the constructor, but we may go ahead and change that. Well, we will, because we're not going to expose that out anywhere. It is injected. We're going to not do the repository now. We're actually going to do the not public, Ryan. We just talked about that. Private rundown service. And we're going to call it rundown service. I like to explicitly name with tab completion nowadays. You don't need real short names. You can do longer ones and tab complete a lot of stuff. You're going to see me. I'm going to use Control Dot here to bring up my context menu. That way I don't have to remove unused member. Nope, I don't want to do that one. I want to do add the using statement. So I never actually have to take my hands off the keyboard. It makes it faster. And in here, we're actually going to take the rundown service. Oh, wow, Ryan. This dot rundown service equals rundown service. Oh, that is annoying. There we go. Okay. Private member rundown service can be removed as the value is never assigned to. Wrong. It just hasn't updated yet. All right, so now we got our rundown service. I'm going to remove this because we're not bringing it in and we're not setting it anymore. If we need it later, we'll take care of it later, but not right now. So now in our rundown service, let's go back to our service. I'm just taking a quick look at some of these. They are using interfaces, which are defined where? Go to definition so we can see it. The best way I found to figure this stuff out is over here. You got the little double arrows. Basically, we'll sync your Solution Explorer with your active window. Oh, wait, look at that. That's all fun. All fuzzy up there. Make it a little bit bigger here. Not so fuzzy, so bright. Every now and then you get a little bit of stuff up there, but back to it. Hit the green. Hey, look, there it is. It's actually in libcore is where they're actually storing all these interfaces. So that's something we can do. All right. So let's create a new interface. Add. And we're going to call this rundown service. Yeah, because we could have, we'll call it a rundown service now, but it could be any other service that implements this. All right. Notice that time it did not put public there. I wonder why it put public in one and not the other. Inquiring minds want to know. I do, but we're not going to focus on it right now. So what are the things we need to do? So we need to obviously get the title, set the title. So we want to, basically it's going to return a string. Call it get rundown title. Don't take anything in. We're also going to void update title. And yet I'm not doing a class, I'm doing an interface. Always got to remember, class is not an interface. There's actually a separate template for doing an interface. I just chose class to be quick. All right, we're going to start there. Those are the two things that we're doing right now in the rundown. Are we doing a rundown controller? No, we're doing in the rundown service. So here we actually have a couple of things we need to do. So we are going to get an item, get all items, and we are going to update an item, or add an item, sorry, and we're going to update an item and delete an item. So simple CRUD operations for items. Go back to our interface here because we are going to need to add those. And we're going to do void add new rundown item. And we're going to take, what's our controller currently take? Let's look at what we're doing now. So our add, we add a new item. So here we go, we create a new item. All right, so it takes a rundown item. So I'm gonna use Control Tab here to quickly swap back. We're gonna say rundown item, and this actually, what does this have dependencies on? Let's look at that real quick. Let's look at this. This all uses, okay. So I'm not going to put this here. I'm not going to put this rundown service here because what I'd have to do is then I'd have to, all the models I need are actually over here in this StreamTools project. And I'd have to then create I'd have to create a reference for this project, for the StreamTools project inside the core project. That's not what you want to do. Your core should be a base. It should be, you'd typically maybe have another project that contained all your models, and there you would reference that in your core and so on and so forth. So think of, I like to think of the onion architecture where I have an onion, and at the bottom, is that how the onion goes? At the bottom you have your core things, is the very base. And then you have the layer above it, and it can reference those items. The layer above it can only reference the item below it, so on and so forth. And so you're building these onions. And so in this process, you would tear down. Here we're kind of creating a reference I don't like. I don't like this core project having to depend on any of these others, especially when it doesn't yet. So, because I don't think so. Let's look at it. No, it has a couple little things on some nougats here on .NET Core. It uses all base types. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to just delete this. First off, I'm just going to copy this because we're going to create it. But we're just going to create it over inside our actual StreamTools project. All right, so we're going to create a new folder here. And I like to call it interfaces. People may have another name for it. Hey, Nelboard. Thank you. I just saw your chat. Apologies. I'm trying to do something different with my chat. You don't have headphones. And so I am going to update you through the chat like you asked. Currently working on updating. Wow, my typing on this other computer is just as bad as on this big one we're on. Updating an OSS project and making the StreamTools, dynamic. And allowing the rundown component to be able to update. Wow, man, I'm terrible at this. To update the items text. And thank you, Jockeries. Is that how you say it? Is that how you want me to say it? If you got a better pronunciation or the correct pronunciation, just put it in the chat and I will make sure I use the correct way to say it. To be able to update the items text dynamically. Currently working on refactoring the API. All right, thank you, Jockeries. All right, so back to it. So where are we at? Oh, I got my iStream. Oh, interfaces. All right. We're going to add a new class here. We're going to add a new interface. Let's do it right this time. Rundown service. Boom, there it is. I'm going to replace this what we had over on the other one. There we go. And there, this rundown item, we already have a reference to that in our project. Using fritztools.models. There we go. Rundown item. Let's try that again. There we go. I think I moved a little too fast for it. Oh, and of course it did its fun little formatting thing. Let's fix that because that bothers me. So we're going to void. Oh, turn my insert on and off there. Delete rundown item. And let's take a look here at what. Oh, no, that's not what I want to do on the ad. So the ad, I want to return the item that we just added. So we're going to return a rundown item. And we're going to take in nothing. So the idea is I want to remove all the logic I can out of my controller and keep it just a pass through. It's going to pass through to our service, and then our service will do all our heavy lifting for us. Delete item, and let's go look at our controller to see what the delete takes. Delete takes an ID, so we'll delete by ID. And our update also, takes an item and an ID. Okay. So let's get those. So delete takes int ID. I like to be explicit. Some people just put ID. I like to say ID to update. It's a personal preference of mine. Again, use what works for you or for your team. So let's see. Void update rundown item. This is going to take the ID of the item to update and the rundown item itself. And then we have our, let's see, is this, we want to turn a list of rundown items, get all items, and then we're going to do rundown item, and we're going to get a single get item, and it's going to take in an ID. And let's see. Go back to my, I could do, oops, not what I wanted to do. So our gets takes an ID, so on and so forth. All right. I like that. That makes sense to me. Now let's go implement this on our service here. I run down service. Do my control dot to get my context menu to easily, quickly add that. I could do control dot again and it will implement it for me. So I can implement it like this with not exceptions, or I can implement it explicitly. Which there doesn't seem to be any difference in. So interface explicitly means it's going to basically do the I run down service.update title. So you'll easily be able to tell which interface that these methods came from. So if you're implementing multiple interfaces and you want to say, okay, I want to be able to quickly know which interface this belongs in, you could do explicitly. We're just going to implement the interface as it is. And then I'm going to come through and shift everything over, pretty print it. I like to collapse everything, so I do Control M and O. Quickly just collapses everything for me inside this. And now while I'm in here, I can actually go and add our new item. So I can start implementing this functionality. But before we do that, before we get into that, I want to do a couple things. I want to go fix our startup. So I want to go to our startup and I want to actually go to the configure services. And so I'm going to add a new one here. Services.add singleton. And this is going to be, it's going to have the I rundown service. Go ahead and resolve that. And then we're going to have our rundown service. There we go. All right, so now that's going to be, that's setting that up inside the built-in, I think it's an IoT, or not IoT, an IOC container. I think this is a version of control container built into Visual Studio, where I can add all these different classes, and then any dependencies that these have in their constructors, it'll go look for within the IOC container themselves and then inject them in. Thereby saying I don't have to new up anything inside my new service or inside the classes that are being created. What does that buy me? What does that get me? That decouples my, if I'm using an interface, it decouples my class from the concrete implementation it needs, which means I can inject mocks and fakes for unit testing. It means I can swap it out very easily because I know the contract that it's going to do, that it has. And so I can quickly create a new one, perform some kind of tests against it to make sure it works. If I don't like it, I can easily swap back to the old one. So those are the niceties about using an inversion of control, as well as, like I said, everything gets injected into it automatically. I don't have to new it up. So if I have a singleton like I have here, I don't have to worry about having multiple instances of this running out there. I have one instance that gets passed around through the entire project. All right, so we did that. So I've got it. So it's now going to be injected. Let's go fix my controller now. So this is the get. So this is getting all the items. So instead of doing repository.get, we're going to do rundown service dot get all items. Fix that one. So on the get for a specific ID, we're going to now, again, we want to keep this as clean as possible. For debugging purposes, I like creating a intermediate variable that the results get stored in, and then then return those, you could easily, let's type this out. You could easily put this entire call inside that return OK. But like I said, for debugging purposes, I like separating them out. We're going to do rundown service dot get item, and we're going to pass in the ID. Now, just for quick testing purposes, there we go. So this returns a rundown item. Let's look at this other one real quick. This was, let's call it out value 2. And it returned, oh, because it doesn't know where repository is. It would return a rundown item as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of that. I'm going to keep this logic here because this is controller-based logic. The not found, that would not be a part of any other service or anything. You could separate it out if you wanted, but I don't think it makes sense in this situation. So we fixed that one. All right, so this next one is post, update. Oh, I'm sorry, no, create. So a post we create. We're adding the item, so we want to var new item equals rundown service dot. I'm going to change this from add because I'm not passing in the value to add to it, because I think that's what add kind of says. I'm going to change it to create. We'll do that in just a second. And so I can actually just delete all of this. Actually, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to comment this out. So I use Control EC real quickly to comment the lines I highlighted. Just little shortcuts. Because I'm going to use this code inside my service. So I don't want to have to recreate it. Recreate the wheel, per se. So this is just called repository update with the value. So here we're going to just rundown. I've got to get some music for this stream. I just cannot find anything I like that's free. Because if I put stuff out there that I really like, it could get caught in copyright. And then on the video on demand services like at YouTube and when Twitch rebroadcasts, allow you to watch streams later, they actually have algorithms that go out and that take a look at the code and identify potential copyrighted, copy infringed music. And so they'll actually silence out pieces of your stream because it may contain copyright content. So I don't want to fall into that trap. I don't want to have to worry about that. Call me lazy, but just not something I want to do, want to have to worry about. So here we are updating a rundown item. I'm going to pass in the ID and the value. And delete that. And we're going to do delete. Rundown service dot delete rundown item. And pass the ID. All right. So I think we got everything there. And I can easily figure this out by just trying to build the project. If it builds, I got everything. If it didn't, I may have missed something, but it's hopefully will tell me. Oh, quickly, build succeeded. Nice. All right. So now let's go back and let's actually implement this service now. Let's see. Don't need that. Don't need that. I'll keep that for now. I don't need that. There's my service. All right. So let's go ahead and we're going to add a new. Did I delete that up here when I added it? No, that's what. So those are the gets. There's the add. like I said before, we're going to go through and we're just going to take this because this is implementing the code we want. And we're going to uncomment that. Oh, highlight everything. So just like Control E and then C, Control E plus C, comments things out. Control EU uncomments them. Yeah, EU, European Union? No. I don't know why E would be comment, but U uncomment makes sense to me. All right. So this is now called just repository. So you can see here we're moving some of this business logic out of the controller and down into a service. I could follow another pattern and create a business logic layer, which you can make it a separate file. A lot of times you'll see that that's actually a separate project. This isn't big enough to do that. So I say start small, start within one project. And if your project starts to grow, everything gets bigger, you may want to think about separating out that logic into another project. Just makes things a little more decoupled, maybe easier and quicker to find. But like I said, for this one, we're not big enough that we need to do that. So we don't need to do that. And here we're going to return, we're going to return the new item. Oh, that formatting kills me every time. All right, there we go. Same logic. So we're just going to keep going down the line here and fixing all of these. Delete item. And this is simply repository.delete. I said ID to update there. I did that. Oh, Ryan. We'll fix that here in a second, because that's not right. Should be ID to delete. Whoa. Well, that was interesting. If you have overwrite on, which is what I accidentally did here, and I hit tab, it actually deleted everything, put the tab, overwrote all those first couple items. I did not know it would do that. So, learn something new every day.
No!
Yeah. Oh, okay. Got that one. Again, make it work, make it right, make it fast. So we're just going to make it work now, and then we'll go make it right. Get all items. This is pretty easy. Repository.get return. Wow, there we go. Get the typing down here. Cannot implicitly convert type. You know, making this an IEnumerable, that's actually probably the smart thing to do here. Fix that in just a minute. I'm going to get all these others done. I can easily solve that by just calling toList here, and that'll get rid of the nice squiggly for me. But I don't need to do that. I can just return the IEnumerable. Get item. So basically here we're going to return repository.get dot where? Yeah. Dot where I dot ID equals ID dot first or default. So if you don't put the first default on there, a little link here, a little link understanding for you. If you don't put the first and default on there, it's actually going to return a I believe it returns a list, or returns a queryable. Let's look at that. So the where is going to return, cannot return, come here. So it's going to return basically a list of items. So it could be more than one. So it could, think of it if I was searching maybe a string for a specific set of characters in there. it might return a list. It's going to return an IEnumerable. So we always want to say first or default. And what we get there, if we just say first, it's going to return us the first instance. Now, if that doesn't exist in there, then it's actually going to throw an exception. We don't want that. We want it to return or default, which right now this is set up as null. You can configure it to return a specific value for the default. But right now it's going to return null. All right, moving on down our list here. Get the rundown title. So here we're going to do a little bit more refactoring here in a minute, because I think get the title, the rundown metadata is what I want to call it, which right now is just the title. Should exist someplace else. It's not a list of things. It's not. The repository should be, I think, for one set of items, one type of items. If we had basically, it was set up to where it contained all that stuff before and was returning a master object with all that in it, maybe. If we get to where we have one service serving multiple customers, per se, if we have this running and you can have different, basically start storing agendas or rundowns for multiple users, then we will change this a little bit more, because we're going to make it more robust. That would make sense there. Here, I think it just makes sense to have them as two separate repos. So we'll do that in a minute. Let's return. Update the title. And this is, we're not doing anything. We're doing repository dot update title. That doesn't seem right, does it? Does it now? That's because we only have one title. You wouldn't have an ID to update. Again, I was thinking of items there. And it's a rundown item, up, down. Yeah, this needs to be a string title. Update title. All right. Oh, that's for update. Man, Ryan, I am not paying attention to what I'm doing. Ha! Look at that, Ryan. Update rundown item. So we're gonna do update. This is now. This makes a little bit more sense, doesn't it? Let's come down here to title. And you kind of need to, you're going to update the title. You kind of need to tell it what you're updating it with. So we'll have a couple little changes here to make. Just my fingers are not wanting to work today. There we go. All right, let's go fix our rundown service here. I think I only have one thing to fix. Oh, no, but I got a couple here. All right, so first thing is, this is ID to delete. And this takes in a string title. And I think I can just come over here. We're going to say this is this. Now, I should be able to build and get everything working. All right, did it build? It did. I was waiting for it to say build succeeded down there. I must have missed it. All right. So we did the rundown item controller. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. Let's go ahead and let's run this again. And let's make sure that we actually, what we did works. Okay, so I do have these up and running in 2 different windows. We're going to run a refresh here to get the latest and greatest. All right, so just to make sure things work, make sure our APIs are still working. Oh no. Well, that's not working at all now, is it? That's where we debug. Oh, look at that. Unable to resolve Fritz.StreamTools rundown service. That's an issue now, isn't it? Why is that? We configured it, didn't we? Let's try this again. So configure services. Let's come over here, go to implementation. Rundown service. It's a rundown service. Okay. There's a key. So when I set that up, I set it up by interface. So when it does the lookup on it, it's going to look it up by the interface and not by, it's going to reference it by the interface and not by the concrete type. So what we have here, this is now not a rundown service, it's an rundown service. That's why it couldn't find it, because I was referencing the concrete type. Again, back to what we were talking about earlier. Decoupling from our concrete types is a great thing. You can go overboard, so use it with caution and use it where it's tools required. That's a new one. Let's try this one more time. Rebuild. Build failed. Visual Studio container requires Docker to be running. Well, so Docker is not running. Why didn't it? Oh, yes. Because I was building, I was in another project. No. Because I was building, I was on the controller. Nope, now it's just going to complain. So let's start up Docker. Why it didn't complain about this earlier, I don't know. You saw me building it, you saw me running it. So I don't know why all of a sudden it just started complaining about, hey, Docker's not running. Docker starting. Sometimes this thing takes a little bit to start up. Is Docker starting? You know, this is kind of where I need the music for Jeopardy. You know, I can go. Let's see. Do I have Jeopardy music here? Will it flag it? Will it catch it? Should we test it out? You know what? We might do that. It's still starting, so let's see. All right. Hey, is Docker running? Oh, no. It needs to keep going. Come on, Docker. This is what took me a long time to get back up and running. If you're just now tuning in, I had some issues getting the stream going, all because Docker wasn't working for me. And that's what that rundown component, that agenda component over there is running off of. And it just would not start. There it is. It's up and running. Let's build it again. Survey says build succeeded. See, when you got everything running, everything works out all right. So, did I say we were going to run? Yes, I did. Let's kick it off. Let's get it up and running. Come back over here. We're going to refresh these, get the latest and greatest. Come back over here real quick. Let's look here. Do we see any errors when we started up? Those were probably from earlier. Let's see. If we click it, does it show up over here? Yes, there it is. All right. So if we edit, stream show, set stream. Yep, there it goes. Okay. Let's test our... Didn't update this, so it's not expecting that. If I delete an item, does it go away? If I add a new item, does it come back? Hey, there we go. Woo! All right. So our repository or our new service seems to be working. All right, let's shut it down. Now, I did notice something over there that... Did you notice it as well? So I just caught that when I added a new item, I didn't get a trash can. I did not get our delete item. And that's because when I did the add first, before we had the trash can. And whenever I did the trash can, it shows up. It was a different template. So I've got a template I need to go update that it just basically adds the trash can icon over here. That way this starts working. Because if I just go edit, turn it back on, the trash can shows up. Though the styling is kind of weird. That is weird. We'll figure it out. Not now, though. We got other things we're working on. Focus, Ryan. Focus.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Nobody's got time for that. That's right. All right. So, rundown item controller. Let's do the rundown controller next. So, instead of this public rundown repository, we're going to do public. No, it's not public. It's private, Ryan. It's private. Rundown service. Wow. Fingers have got minds of their own. Resolve that. There we go. Fix that. And now when we come down in here, we're going to... No, we don't want concrete types again, Ryan. We want the interface version of it. This is going to be down service. Change this to rundown service. Down service. I run down, that's repository. We're actually doing service. Bada bing, bada boom. We're going to get rid of this because I want to know. All right. See here, we're combining everything. We can do that here too. Rundown service dot get rundown title. And then rundown service. Did I name them the same? Dot update title. Boom, that should work. Build. Bada bing, bada boom. Oh, no. It built fine. Yeah. All right. So there we go. We've got that running now. So what else did we want to do? We want to come over here and we want to make sure we want to get a new repository for our for our rundown, a rundown meta. So the rundown repository right now handles all the items. So a little bit of a misnomer in my mind, but naming things is hard, very hard for me. So how do we want to fix this? I'm checking some things out on the stream. Just a second. All right. For some reason, OBS, Streamlabs OBS is using a lot of CPU today. Not really sure what that's about. Causing some drop frames here and there. All right, so I want to take these out. I want to put them someplace else. I don't want to call it rundown repository because there's already, I want to call it that. I want to call this rundown item repository. Do I go through and do that renaming? Yeah, let's do that. And let's do this. Rename it. Does it rename it everywhere for me? Is it smart like that? Okay, so that worked. One thing I do want to check that I saw in our rundown.cshtml, it's going after repository here. Let's go definition here. Yeah. We're going to change this to service here in a little bit. All right. First things first, Ryan. First things first. Let's go look in our service, make sure that's called rundown item repository. Okay, cool. It looks like that is actually good. And now I'm going to add a new file, and I'm going to call it rundown repository. And this is basically going to take, it's updating our metadata here. All right. And we're going to take this information right here. We're going to move it out over here. Oh, I'm running short on time. We can get this done. We can get the refactoring done in 10 minutes. We can do it.
Just do it!
I got it. I'm going to do it. Okay. Remove these. Put them over here. All right. And in our service, we're actually going to take a, so we brought in the rundown item repository. We're also going to take a rundown repository. We're going to call it repository. We're going to take this one, rename this one item repository because that makes sense. Because that's what we renamed it to. No. It's going to make me do that. Delete rundown item. Get item. Title stuff. Nope. That's new repository. So now we have a new one called private rundown. Ooh. Repository. And we want to take in this dot item repository equals item repository. All right. And you change this to item repository. There we go. All right, now we need to go back to our startup and we need to register that new repository. It's actually not in the startup. It's probably in startup services. Yeah, there it is. It's .add singleton rundown repository. Build it, make sure everything looks right, everything works. Nope, 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 nope. Where are you? For its StreamTools, does not contain a definition for, yes, that's right. So let's come over here. So this model now, let's go to the page behind here. Go to page model. So now this was taking in this repository. I'm actually going to change this. I want to change this to the service. Rundown service. Let's call it service. I'm going to call this rundown service. So we want the interface. We don't want to do the concrete. Same here. We want the rundown service. And we also need now make sure we get the rundown item service. No, rundown service. Just the rundown service. That's it. Because that has all our stuff. Another layer of abstraction. All good here. Okay, so let's go over to back to where we were. So did I change? Let's move this to a new vertical tab group here. There we go. So I still call it repository. We're going to call it service. So no longer do we have that. Model.service. Get all items. The IntelliSense and Razor has gotten so much better. Service. Get title. Is that what we called it? Nope. Actually, it's going to be something a little bit different, I believe. Rundown title. There we go. So that one's fixed. I think we have one more place to fix this. Yep. Thought it would show up. I thought it would go. It did not go. All right. That's easy. That's okay. So there's our admin. Ooh, yeah, all that JavaScript that we added last time. Not a JavaScript person, but it was fun. It's always fun to try something new, or something that you've not been in or done before. So it's always exciting when you go and try and you're actually able to figure things out. That's the fun part of getting back into things. So my JavaScript's not as tight as my C#. Probably because I don't do JavaScript day in and day out. But I'm getting better at it. I'm doing a little bit more TypeScript here lately. But it was fun to get back in and learn more about JavaScript. I love being able to edit it and run it real quickly because I don't have to rebuild it because it's JavaScript. It's interpreted on the client or run on the client side. So it's automatically sent down there and run from the client, not from a IDE or a IIS Express or something like that. Okay, so we want to change this. We're going to come down and we're going to go get us a iRundown service. Change this. Always rename. Never be afraid to rename something. You want it to be pretty explicit as to what this is. And you don't want to have to make your team or people guess kind of what it is you are referencing here. I want to capitalize that. All my public properties, I always capitalize it. It's a good convention. I think, and it's one that most people follow. Easy to quickly know if it's capitalized, it's either a method or it's a property. So we've got that. So we just need to come back over here now. To our service.get all items. Get rundown title. All right. So now we should be able to build, and everything should be copacetic. No. I'm going to ignore that for now because everything works. Uh-oh. Yeah, the file is locked by .NET Core host. I have a feeling, let's try build it again. Build succeeded. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Well, that's not always true. If you try it once, it didn't work. Try it again. If it doesn't work, you know what they call someone who tries it over and over again? That's the definition of insanity. Trying the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. If it doesn't happen after the first, second, maybe third time, it's probably not going to happen. You need to do something a little bit different. This happened on the second time, and so I'm okay with that. All right, now let's run it. Let's see. Does it still work after our refactoring? This is where unit testing would come in. It would make it much easier for me to tell if something broke. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a lot of client-side. I don't think it has any client-side unit testing. And they have, I believe, very little server component testing. So, all right, let's test it. Basic things. Does it show up? Everything showed up. That's good. That came. Let's agenda. Agenda shows. Delete. Add. There we go. We see it swap out. Today's shoes. Today's shoes are none. I'm not wearing shoes today. I'm wearing socks. One of the benefits of working at home, I don't have to wear shoes everywhere. It's kind of nice. It's kind of comfy. I'm cozy. I do better work this way. All right. It looks like everything works. Yes. Oh, and it's 2 o'clock. We're good. Okay. So I can come over here. I can pull up my admin over here. I can click off the Refactor API. I'm happy with what we did. I liked it. There may be some things I would fix. I definitely want to put in a persistence layer at some point. I want to look at NoSQL document databases are kind of interest me a little bit. I like the idea of them. I like the idea of the non-relational system, especially when I don't need it. Like with this stuff, I don't need this. And if I start getting into where I'm going to have multiple of these, potentially because I'm running this as a SaaS solution out on the interwebs, out in the cloud, I want to be able to have multiple ones of these for different users and different customers. And so I don't need any relations to it. I just need to have all that information in one location I can go get quickly. And so that's where I think a document database, a NoSQL database would come in very handy. So we'll possibly look at that. But first thing we want to do, we want to commit this. We want to get this up into our repo. I didn't get the styling. Again, if you're listening, watching this now or later, thank you for watching now, and also thank you for watching later if you do. If you want to help me out, I am not a great artist. Stick figures is challenging for me. That's why I write code. But if you are a good styler, someone who wants to help out, who wants to contribute, who wants to make it look better, go ahead, fork the solution, fix it, submit a pull request. We'll take a look at it live on stream and accept it in. That's what I want to get to. I want to get everybody who's out there who wants to help, who wants to be a part of something, the ability to do it. So that's part of what this stream is about, is helping people learn. So I've been using Microsoft products for over a decade now. And that's what I'm used to. Part of the stream is to help me get out of my comfort zone and go on to different paths. So I got to where I like Git. For the longest time, I liked TFVC or Team Foundation Version Control. It made sense to me. Here over the past couple of years, I've moved into Git. I understand the branching structure, so I've been using it from within what they call Azure DevOps now. I'm not going to say ADO because that means something totally different to a .NET developer. Azure DevOps you can store your code in Git repos out there now, and you can easily has an easy GUI interface built into Visual Studio. But I want to get the command line tools. I want to learn more about Git on command line and the ability of what you can do. So that's what I'm using. When I learn something, I have to jump in with both feet. Otherwise, I will never learn it. I'll always make an excuse. If I say, you know what, that's all I'm doing, that's how I'm going to do it, I learn things. That's how I learn. So Git status is going to show us what all the changes we made. All right, there's everything. Everything looks good. All right, so we're going to do git add dot, and that's going to add everything. It's going to basically stage it for a commit. And so you can see down there in the, so I'm going to see if I point to the right way. If you look down there, you see I'm actually using a product called PoshGit. Pretty sure that's what it is. You can Google that and find it. Anyways, within PowerShell, it shows me kind of what's going on within my Git repo. And so when it turned from red, which meant these are you have changes that have not been staged or committed. When it went from red to green, it says, hey, I've got these staged. So now if I do a git status, it shows everything in green. It shows everything as staged, ready to commit. And so from here, it's just as simple as doing git commit -m for my message. And we just refactor the refactored rundown API and repositories. Because now there's more than one. 2 to be specific. Do that. There we go. Now, because I've set everything up in advance, it's actually connected to Git is connected to my repo out in GitHub. So now I just do a git push. And all those changes that we just did live on stream are now up in that repo. So if you want to help out, go fork our repo. Again, we're out here at, I'm going to make this big here. Devs Garage, github.com/Devs Garage. Fritz.StreamTools is the project we're currently working in. As we do more and more things, there will be more projects inside our Devs Garage. So if I just hit refresh here, come on, refresh. There you go. You can see our latest one came in, refactored rundown APIs. So the next thing we're going to do a little styling next week. And then the other thing I want to do is I also want to go out and I want to make sure I get all the changes that Jeff and his team have been doing over there on his stream, and the people have been helping him out. Make sure I grab all their changes and bring them into my pull request. The reason I want to do that into my branch. The reason I want to do that is because it's going to help reduce the amount of potential merge conflicts whenever my PR tries to go in, especially if we've been working in some of the same projects. So it's easier for me to fix my little bit of merge, especially since I know the pieces I've changed very well, rather than Jeff to have to try to figure them out. That's kind of the quickest way I found to get a PR rejected, is if it's got a ton of merge conflicts, because a maintainer really doesn't want to have to go through and trying to figure what you did out versus what somebody else did. So that's it. I'm going to my scenes here. Thank you everybody for joining me. I had a great time. Another one next week. I'm going to try and get back to my schedule on Wednesday. So next Wednesday at 12 p.m. Central, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. You can catch me back here on Dev's Garage. If you're watching this in the future, go ahead and on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, let's say that, because you can watch this again on Twitch. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below so you can be notified when I put a new video out. And that way you can always be up to date with what we're doing and check us out when and wherever you are. If you're watching me later on Twitch, go ahead and hit the follow button. That way you know when I go live. And you can join us live, you can interact. And hey, Semaphore, thanks for joining. I appreciate it. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Hopefully we'll get to do this again next week. Because I want to make sure that I'm helping you all out. If you guys got something you want to see or want me to do, hit me up on Twitter. My thing's not up there. Is it in my coding one? Let me switch back real quick. Yes, up there at the top. So if you look up at the top now, I got my Twitter handle. You can follow me on Twitter, DM me. I think my DMs are open. If not, tweet me. I'll get them open for you. And we can talk about things we want to do. Maybe I'll start a Discord channel. I know a lot of people have been doing Discord. Hey, RGX attempts, appreciate it. Let me know what you guys want to see, what you all want to see, what kind of content you want. This stream is for you. I mean, it's for me, but it's also for you. Because if you're not learning, then I need to find something that's going to help you all out. Because I'm doing stuff that I want, but if I'm streaming it, I want it to be for everybody, not just for me. So that's all I got. Thanks, everybody. I look forward to seeing you all in the chat room next time. Bye.